Stop. This is a disclaimer. This speech will be mentioning sex and sexual activity, so if your brain is mentally under the age of 7, Aiden, then leave now. Fellas, do you know what this is? Wrong, it's the myometrium. Ladies, you're not off the hook either. What's that? Wrong, it's the vas deferens. If you couldn't answer those questions, you're one of countless students who have been subject to the incredibly incompetent sex education system of America. Admittedly, I'm not an expert. I am but a humble, horny teenager. It's horny adult now. Woo! Purr! However, I have experience with both American and European sex education, and with further research into the matter, I can confidently say that this American education system is terrible, and the sex education is one of the pillars we must set a nationwide standard on so we can start improving the American education system, amongst other things. You must now all be asking, this can't be that bad. I mean, I know how babies are made. What's the big deal? But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me show you how bad it actually is. It's this bad. Just kidding. That's all just some useless data to you, just some X's and boxes. So let me contextualize it for you. According to a November 2020 Guttmacher Institute study, that's recent, only 28 states mandate that there be sex and HIV education. And only 17 states require that the content be medically accurate. In other words, only 34% of schools have mandatory sex education across the nation that teach medically accurate sex education. So I'd like you to picture the scenario. You're at a dinner, lovely dinner, Harold. Oh, thank God we went to this expensive first-class restaurant. And there are 10 chefs at this restaurant, and only 3 out of the 10 chefs know how long to cook a steak so that you don't get food poisoning. Would you let that restaurant stay in business? Or would you demand that they hire competent staff lest they want their entire kitchen to be shut down? According to the same study, only 20 states inform teenagers about contraception. That's condoms and the pill and whatnot. While 28 states stress that the only precaution to HIV and pregnancy is abstinence. So over half of schools in America stress abstinence as a solution to pregnancy. Like, I'm curious to see who's on the education board. Like, have they met horny teenagers? Haven't they been horny teenagers? Don't they know that that doesn't work? However, with names like Betsy, I'm surprised they didn't get any action. So now that you have an idea of the situation in America, let me show you how sex education is regarded in Europe. Firstly, unlike in the US, sex and sexuality isn't a taboo subject. Except for the Brits who banned porn, but they left the EU, so they don't count anymore. Brexit means Brexit, am I right? According to the World Health Organization Regional Office for Europe and BISGA standards for sexuality education in Europe, sex education establishes a close cooperation with parents and the community in order to build a supportive environment. Schools and parents are mutually supportive in the process of continuous sexuality education. So unlike the divide in America between school and home, in Europe they intertwine. Parents teach children, teachers teach children, and teachers teach parents. Now try saying that 5 times fast. There's also a clear guideline of age-appropriate sex education subjects to teach throughout a child's student life. For example, between the ages of 4 to 6, children are taught the importance of clear boundaries and the difference between yes and no. They start recognizing signs of abuse. For ages 12 to 15, children are taught about sexuality and how sometimes you can be attracted to the same gender, and that is completely fine. In the Netherlands, I'm gonna say the Netherlands in the accent that I usually say it, because in an American accent, it sucks. So, the Netherlands, where sex education begins in preschool and is integrated into all levels and subjects of schooling, boasts one of the lowest teen birth rates in the world. That's 4.8 per 1,000 women between the ages of 15 and 19. A rate 6 times lower than in the US. So unlike in America, there's no freshman-sophomore year health class lecture on human reproduction and, like, AIDS that is never brought up ever again. In Europe, there's a structured plan on what a child learns and when they do. The curriculum is inclusive and unbiased when educating students on sex and sexuality. Can't speak. So that's how great Europe has it. Now let's see the consequences of the American system. Although the rate of teenage pregnancy in the United States is at its lowest in nearly 40 years, it remains one of the highest among most developed countries in the world. 57 women out of 1,000 between the ages of 15 and 19. That's nearly 615,000 American teenagers getting pregnant each year. And 82% of those are unintended. The state with the highest rate of teen births is in Arkansas, with an average of 30 births per 1,000 girls. And those are just births. Imagine the pregnancies that were either aborted or miscarried. This coincides with Arkansas sex education not being mandatory and with abstinence and sex after marriage only being stressed. So how can we fix this? Increase funding to schools and family planning institutions. Sexually active teens in schools with condom programs like in Massachusetts were twice as likely to report using condoms during their most recent sexual encounter. But education does not stop at school funding. The US needs a long-term teenage pregnancy prevention media campaign. Developed countries such as the Netherlands, Germany, and France, in which teenage birth rates are many times lower than in the US, promote healthy, low-risk sexual behavior through their national media campaigns. Likewise, nearly 1.5 million teenage girls in need of contraceptive services turn to publicly funded clinics. Confidential access to contraceptive services is crucial in preventing teenage pregnancy. Publicly funded family planning clinics prevent 460,000 teen pregnancies a year. Without publicly funded family planning services, the number of unintended pregnancies and abortions would be nearly 3/4 higher among teens. But good thing those services are publicly funded, right? Oh, wait. You can change this. Call your local representatives. Pass reforms to improve the sex education system. Recognition that sexual expression is a part of a teenager's development will help guarantee them the right to accurate information about sex and access to high-quality reproductive health services. This will empower them to express their sexuality in safe and healthy ways. Then lower teenage pregnancy rates will naturally follow. So stand up to this incompetency while you can, because if we stand idly by while the education system stays flawed, then your children might have to deal with the same problems you did. And if you realize it only then, it'll already be too late.